case for all three of them.
Yep.
Derek McInnes needs no explanation. I'd argue that McInnes' influence in creating this kind of winning culture that has got Hearts into the top of the table at this point of the season has been even bigger than the kind of arrival of Jamestown Analytics this season. The two combined, obviously, has been a perfect match made in heaven. But McInnes has been the driver on a daily basis. He's set the standards, brought a unity to the side with the new signings and the guys already there. Got everyone on board with his man management. He's turned Tynecastle into this ferocious fortress, unbeaten still in 20 games at Tynecastle in normal time, that is. And you only have to go back a year to see how toxic Tynecastle can be when things aren't going well. So it's not an easy place to do your business. McInnes downplays tactics a lot, but don't for a second think he's a dinosaur. You know, this guy, he'll embrace the supercomputer and all the analytics it throws up, how to use data and opposition, all the rest of it. So Derek McInnes needs no explanation, although he's still to finish the job, obviously. John McGlynn going for 3 in a row. How do you argue with the job he's done at Falkirk? It's been a fairy tale, to steal his own words. It's been a fairy tale the last 3 years. It's a breath of fresh air.
Top six for the first time in their history.
Incredible. Like two Callan. Go back to this time, 2024, 2 years, they're still in League One. About to come out of League One, back-to-back titles. What I love about it, the core of that squad, you know, the spine of that squad have been on the journey with them from League One to now being top performers in the Premiership. He's turned the likes of Cole Donaldson, Liam Henderson, Calvin Miller. I love Brad Spencer in the centre midfield. He's turned them into top performers that know how to control games of football. And look, maybe a bit of a push for him to win a third in a row, what the story that would be. But again, Barney Stewart, plucked from the 7th tier of Scottish football. He makes players better, and that is a sign of a good manager. Obviously, will be hurting and was hurting after the Scottish Cup semi-final defeat 2 weeks ago. I covered that game, and he knew what a massive missed opportunity that was. Might well cost him a third win in a row. Then Gary Naismith, folk might turn their nose up at League One, you know, but underrated. What a job he's done at Stenhousemuir, absolutely incredible. 2 years ago, led the Warriors to their first ever senior league triumph in what was then 140-year history. Last year, backed up by taking them to the playoffs. Missed out in the Championship through the playoffs. But this year, if results go their way on Saturday, he'll add a League One title to that, and you'll have Stenhousemuir in the Championship. It's an incredible story. Doing it against 4 or 5 full-time teams in that league. They're still part-time on a modest budget. Very good manager, Gary Naismith. But then brings us to the Askou question. You're right. The footballing revolution that has gone on at Fir Park this season has been like nothing really I've ever seen before in Scottish football. It's been staggering. Now, they're not going to win any silverware at the end of it, and maybe that'll go against them. It wasn't great to play devil's advocate. Maybe his record in the Cups has gone against them, particularly the Scottish Cup when his team selection up at Aberdeen was questionable. And they went out early on in the Scottish Cup. Maybe also John McGlynn edged it because Askou hasn't got the better of John McGlynn in their 3 head-to-heads so far this season. But Motherwell are sitting 9 points ahead of Falkirk in the league. And their play, it's turned Motherwell into like Galacticos, isn't it? The way they play football. Look what they did at Ibrox, completely controlling that game again on Sunday. They've done it against Celtic on their own patch at Fir Park. He's made, again, like McGlynn, he's made kind of journeyman footballers into, not world beaters, but proper footballers that can control games, know how to play the game, understand the game. And the transformation likes of Paul McGinn, Steve McGlynn's been sensational, and Stephen O'Donnell's been sensational. So very, very hard on Jens Berthel Askou, but I think bottom line is he'd rather take 4th place in the Premiership, which they are looking strong candidates to go and do. That's all that matters at the end of the day. But quite tough for him not to be in that shortlist.
I don't. Also, I haven't had much chance to see Stenhousemuir this season, but I don't really have a problem with the 3 nominees, Ryan. But I just think the Berthel Askou one is mad. Like I just said off air, that for a Motherwell team, with all due respect to them, to get to March and still be in the conversation to perhaps win the title as they were. And as Fraser, as you say, Fraser, not just that they've been up there, the way they've been up there, the way they've played, they cut through Rangers like a hot knife through butter at the weekend. I just think it's really peculiar that there wasn't a way to get Berthel Askou in. I don't know what you think, Ryan.
Yeah, big Mercedes Jens. He's definitely going to be my vote for the Scottish Football Writers Manager of the Year. I like that one.
Bold.
I think it's. I'm surprised. I must admit, he's done an absolute. Fraser's put it brilliantly there. Summed up brilliantly the job that he's done at Fir Park, and like you say, Dan. Literally last month we were talking about Motherwell potentially being title contenders.
It's mad when you say that. I know.
It was that
and
game.
It was realistic. It was. It really was.
It was that game at Celtic Park where the wheels just kind of come off, where they lost 3-1. And I don't think it was a 3-1 game either. I think maybe the first half Celtic were a better team, but the second half Motherwell were excellent. But I don't think, certainly in my lifetime, I've never witnessed a team outside Celtic Rangers, of course, dominate both sides of the Old Firm like Motherwell have. I mean, that game on Sunday at Ibrox, that was a masterclass in the first half. I've never seen Celtic dominate Rangers like that, and vice versa. I've never seen Rangers dominate Celtic like that at Celtic Park. And they're doing it in a shoestring budget as well. You look at some of the signings that Motherwell and Jens has brought in. Elliot Watt, Elijah Just, obviously Just worked under the manager in Denmark, Emmanuel Longello, guys like that. They've completely transformed Motherwell, and by far they've been the most entertaining team in Scotland. It's not even up for debate. I think Falkirk are probably the second most entertaining team. If you're a neutral and you've got a spare weekend off, it'd be between those two. It'd be a flip of a coin who you're going to go and watch. I know Hearts obviously have been top of the table for so long, but the style of football is why Jens is probably top of many people's list to become the next Celtic manager. I think you have to remember as well, this is his first season in Scottish football. It's not as if he's been here like a year or two, and he's kind of relatively inexperienced as a manager as well. So I think I'm surprised that Jens isn't on the shortlist, I must admit. And another thing as well, if you look at attendances at Fir Park over the years, I mean, you're lucky to get a seat now this season because, as I say, because of the style of football he's introduced. So yeah, I'm surprised. I thought what I would say is I think they should perhaps considered bending the rules this year. I think if there was a box to be ticked for the title-winning manager, then I think just about everybody would have probably most people might have ticked that box. But as I say, I think I'm definitely one of Jens' biggest fans, and I think that it's a real surprise that he's not involved. But listen, it's a hard choice because all three managers deserve to be in contention as well. But I thought Jens would definitely be in the top three.
Obviously, there's no Old Firm involvement. Fraser and William Sloan is written in, and if you're watching at home, let us know your thoughts. He says none of them get close to O'Neill, even discounting that he could still win a double. He's got them to this position is nothing short of miraculous, considering the nightmare he was burdened with. Personally, I wouldn't give it to Martin O'Neill, but there is the argument this is a very mediocre Celtic team. If he gets them to a Scottish Cup and a league double, that would be a pretty miraculous thing is the right word.
Yeah, but it's all if buts and maybes. He can finish third. You can't have a Celtic manager getting manager of the year if he finishes third. I know people say he's worked miracles with this Celtic squad, which is clearly inferior to Celtic squads in the past. And of course, if he wins a league and he wins a double, then there's calls for a statue to be erected outside Celtic Park. You'll get all the accolades then, but at this moment in time, there's still 3 points adrift of Hearts in second place, and as I say, they can still finish third. So I don't think Martin O'Neill or Danny Rowe should be. I think it's right that neither of them are involved. If I'm being brutally honest, as I say, if there was a box to be ticked for the title winner, then they would be in the reckoning for me, because I think if Martin O'Neill was to win the title, it would be an astonishing achievement from the the absolute chaos that he inherited at Celtic Park. For him to turn that around, and you look at the January window and the absolute the mess that the club made of that, and if he's still to drag Celtic over the line, I think it would be a tremendous achievement. Likewise with Danny Rowe, 13 points behind when he arrived, and he's got Rangers. Rangers shouldn't be anywhere near this title race, but they are, and it's because of Danny Rowe. I know he's getting a lot of stick just now from Rangers fans who have perhaps run out of a bit of patience with him. He's lost some big games. I'm thinking the 2 cup games to Celtic, and obviously he's lost to Hearts, and then that game at Motherwell was a real setback at the weekend as well. So he deserves equal amount of credit as Martin O'Neill, but I don't think any of them should be in the reckoning for the manager of the year. Without, you know, because it has to be judged this early. You know, if it was the end of the season, they would perhaps come into contention. But as things stand just now, I think they shouldn't be involved.
Fraser, Martin O'Neill or Danny Rowe, would you have?
No, I totally agree with Ryan. Look, if it's down to galvanising a squad that looked down and out, then Martin O'Neill would come into the equation. He's done a fantastic job. I think it's been a sensational story, but Martin O'Neill's come back and done it at the age of 74. I feel sorry for the guy in many ways.